Sick. You know what I was just not thinking was that the tattoo industry needs like our own version of Andrew Tate. I didn't have it on my bingo card, yet here you are. Awesome. Also, wouldn't compensating for incompetence just be competent? Am I dumb? I might be.
You might be. You see, if you're an incompetent artist and you wish to compensate for it by choosing a style that will make you appear more competent, you remain incompetent. You see, if I had a small peepee, hypothetically, like this lady seems to suggest in the comment section, and I wish to compensate for it with a 16610 Submariner discontinued model, my peepee remains small. Hypothetically, of course. You see, this style simply does not require that much competence to execute and appear competent. The words competent and compensate may sound similar. That might have confused you. A laughable grasp of the English language, but an impressive lack of self-awareness. But anyway, let's check his work and see if Tits deserves the right to speak. Excuse my incompetence. That's my work. This is his work. A true insult to my optical nerve. Sadly, I have to deny him the right to speak on anything art-related, because otherwise he's going to keep dishing out these kind of art theory definitions. Let's have a look.
Perspective, you know? Something is smaller if it's further away and bigger if it's up close. A little kid can learn that.
Truly academic. Welcome back, degenerates. Today we're finally going to address the sexism, racism, homophobia, and misogyny institutionalized deep into the fabric of the tattoo industry by the patriarchy. Hold on. That's not my script. Welcome back, degenerates. There's 1,500 of us here now, and what you've seen earlier in the intro was one of many responses to my two-part Instagram post about fine line tattooing. He obviously didn't address any points I've made in the video, but we appreciate the promotion anyway. And I certainly respect the fact that he voices distaste for me on camera and not just in the comment section like the rest of them. So in today's video, we're gonna react to some more toxic comments I've received over the past week on these two videos and some other videos as well. And in a classic internet fashion, we have it all. We have accusations of sexism, accusations of homophobia, insecure masculinity. We have shame, insults, guilt, and of course the need to be right. The oppression goblins really had a field day with this one. But as you guys know, I've got a degree in gaslighting from the University of Verdansk, a cold, evil place where the words sexism, homophobia haven't even been invented yet. Now, before we jump into the snowflake swamp, let's actually check the video that triggered the fine line masses. Fine line tattooing is not a technique. It is rather an effective marketing strategy that compensates for incompetence. Realism, just smaller, it's not a different technique. Realism, just smaller, with added geometry that resembles a skin condition from 5 meters away, is also not a real technique. Now, if we take my 2-year-old Egyptian piece and take a few detailed parts and cut the rest of it out in a circle, am I a fine line artist now? Of course not. Any competent realism artist is better than any of you clowns, regardless of how much you desaturate your Instagram or whatever trendy name you come up with of what you specialize in for your Instagram bio. There's only a few people that currently execute this low-effort, high-profit trash properly, and they all have a strong portfolio of realism tattoos and other artwork that's actually worthy. Now, I won't judge clients that find the aesthetics of this so-called style appealing and cute, not at all. But I will judge men that hide the technical and artistic incompetence behind tiny little designs, knowing full well they could never execute the very same thing in a size that would actually withstand the test of time. Now, every business has got cheap trends, and it always attracts the same clowns that want to take the path of least resistance. And today's trend is fine line tattooing for men.
It's all about humanity. About humanity.
Alright, so first we have to address the straw man argument some people are making. And also, what exactly I mean by fine line. People keep bringing up Pony, Oscar Cremo, Anil Gupta. Look, those people aren't part of this category. Like I've said, there's only a few people that currently execute this low-effort, high-profit trash properly, and they all have a strong portfolio of realism tattoos and other artwork that's actually worthy. People like Oscar and Pony, they both have strong portfolios, and also they're both highly competent. I couldn't care less if they hand poke their tattoos. But anyway, most of you know exactly who and what I'm talking about. Even though throughout the years, the line between fine line and microrealism got quite blurry. Much like the actual lines on these fine line tattoos a couple of years down the line. You see what I did there? This is what I call creative writing, and this is what I call creative bankruptcy. I didn't have to look far for these examples because people kept tagging these clowns in my videos. These days, we associate microrealism, sacred geometry, avocado toast, and a couple of planets when we hear the words fine line. We do not think of the OGs busting out single needle tattoos like Mark Mahoney and Freddie Negretti, and we most certainly don't think of Chicano. These people we praise and appreciate, and please do not try to rope them into the same category as the new millennial clown show celebrity fashion 2 planets 1 statue ads. Who I'm talking about is laughable, but they're laughing all the way to the bank, and unlike their lines, that's fine. Even these two you brought up are pure counterfeit trash. So here's how we're gonna define it from now on. Fine line tattooing is any and all microrealism with added stupid shit to compensate for the bad realism and lack of basic art theory. Many of you said I'm mistaking microrealism for fine line. I'm not. Sadly, they've bastardized the word fine line. I didn't, they did. Don't get mad at me. I'm here to defend the good name of fine line. Look, if it was me, I would call what they're doing something completely different to preserve the name fine line for the OGs. We could call what they're doing something like sacred dermatitis or staff geometry, something along these lines. Give me your best ones in the comments. Okay, so now that we understand exactly who and what I'm talking about, let's address the pain-avoiding delusion a lot of you are suffering from. Talking about how small is 10 times harder. I mean, this is truly laughable. Now, I won't argue with these people in denial. They're too far gone, guys. They actually believe this. So don't attempt what I'm about to attempt, which is to explain why it's not harder at all. They might have a hissy fit and spit soy milk in your face or something. There was plenty of melties in the comment sections. Number 1. When a realistic element is applied on a surface with texture, the texture itself will add realism to the observer. It is an optical illusion that most of us who paint understand very well. So a mediocre execution of a rose, for example, on a canvas will appear more realistic because of the texture the canvas provides to the rose. The same rose on a smooth, non-textured surface will not appear as realistic. I think it goes without saying that a small part of the canvas, for example 2 centimeters in diameter, is providing more of the forgiving texture to the same design, because the individual texture pixels here are bigger relative to the design in question. And the same design and the same texture, but on a larger surface area, for example 30 centimeters in diameter, will appear a lot smoother and way less realistic. The artistic incompetence won't be absorbed and compensated for by the texture of the canvas. No, quite the opposite. It will be exposed. On a size like that, the forgiving texture is negligible. But the law of diminishing returns applies, of course, so you can't go too big on the canvas texture relative to the design, and the design relative to the canvas texture. But on human skin, there is real limitations of how small you can actually go, and the more texture there is relative to the design size, the more penalties there will be aging and healing. And number 2, optically, it just looks like it's acceptable artwork. People that don't understand basic art principles and art theory trying to execute small realism, calling it fine line. There's a lot to unpack here, so I might do it next day. Okay, we'll do it now. You see this? This looks acceptable. But now, if we blow it up to a standard realism size, it's no longer acceptable. Art theory-wise, that's not a well-executed thing. That's a bad drawing with a plethora of mistakes executed smaller, where these mistakes aren't as noticeable. I do enjoy the podcast though. Don't worry about whether I let myself down or not. For a design this size on the forearm, optically we make a different judgment. Now there's certainly an art and a skill to simplifying style. And in a lot of styles, this is the predominant characteristic and it becomes its own style. But in those cases, in fine line, just because it's smaller, nah. However, these delusional retards are saying how smaller is 10 times harder, as if they do what we do on a large scale in a small scale, 1-to-1, which is not the case at all. The smaller you go, the more you have to simplify. Otherwise, it's going to be too busy and it's going to age even worse. And I highly doubt they're recommending appropriate sizes to the client. It appears to me the whole flex is the size. Look at my shit, bro. It's super small. Great. And number 3 is just easier, guys. Can we stop? Can we get real, please? Can we stop pretending that this is harder than this? Imagine a huge Renaissance painting and some hippie with an iPad standing there. You're about, did you see my 3RL? Will you shut the fuck up? It's not that hard, guys. I can teach my Saint Bernard to do it. And look, there's plenty of people with micro-realism, fine line, whatever, Instagrams or whatever, but are actually competent artists. I'm not talking about these people. I'm talking about the soy bros, the desaturated Instagram grifters. It's fucking funny. I hope we're clear who I'm talking about. We all know that doing something small for whatever reason is like a fun little thing. It's not that serious. You go into the session with no stress whatsoever. It's really fun. You know you're gonna finish in a day. There's literally nothing easier, except for being an online stripper. It's not a whole new way of tattooing. A lot of time that style has to be done in a bigger realistic composition anyway. It's business as usual. And I can't lie, it's really fun doing micro-realism. It's really fun and easy. Slapping some geometry around it isn't a big deal. It really is the path of least resistance. It's such counterfeit garbage, it makes me sick. But if you like doing it and like getting it, get it, do it. I don't give a shit. I'll cover it up, I don't give a Can we stop pretending that this is some kind of revolutionary shit? Literally all copying each other to the last little planet. It's so funny as well how they're coping. Small tattoos show all the imperfection. Can you stop? If you were doing what the realistic artists are doing 1-to-1, we could have a discussion there, even though realistic artists frequently have to do small things anyway in a bigger realistic composition. Now here's my thoughts about fine line, micro-realism, longevity and all that jazz. I really don't care. What's between you and your client is none of my business. Except for the cover-ups that I'm going to be doing after your shit melts in 3 years. But seriously, as long as the communication is there and the client understands what he's getting, the risks, the limitations, I'm fine with it. I really don't care. What two consenting adults do with each other is none of my business. Now, as far as the risks and limitations of fine line, I don't think that's being advertised properly to the clients online. But at the end of the day, what matters is what you communicate to each individual client yourself. To be honest, all advertising is sort of absurd. And in this issue, I think communication is the most important part. Now, I don't care how much those people charge either. Many of you brought that up as well. If you manage to charge high premiums for that kind of work, good for you. Prices are between the buyers and sellers. And the price discovery mechanisms in every market are due to supply and demand, unless the Federal Reserve gets involved in the capital markets and so on. If they can charge more by tattooing clueless celebrities, I'm cool with that. Good for them. Now, do I think it's funny that a boatload of bros occupied the most feminine space in tattooing known to men? Yeah, I think it's hilarious. That doesn't make us sexist. Before you say sexist, let me ask you this. If there was a nail salon and there was 10 gym bros, big, tatted up, top Gs, doing nails, I think that's hilarious, don't you? Do I have a problem with you doing what you're doing? Not at all. I couldn't care less. Do whatever makes you happy and communicate with your client. I'm happy for everyone that finds what works for them, no matter what it is. But I'm not gonna pretend like these guys are some sort of high-end elite artists, or even skilled tattooists for that matter. But like I specified, there is a few people that execute that style correctly. Whoever's getting triggered, you know it's not you. Guys, you know how the internet works. I have to throw some bait out for the snowflakes. I don't have tits, how am I supposed to get views? Some people even said I was homophobic for the dude dancing in the video I posted. For all you know, I could be gay and he could be straight. You're the one stereotyping gay people here, not me. A lot of people said I'm just hating, that I'm just jealous, that I'm just creating more division in the tattoo industry, to which I disagree. I don't think we have enough hate in the tattoo industry. Honestly, all I see online is tattooists sucking each other off on different podcasts, different shows. We're giving ourselves all kinds of awards and participation trophies. I actually don't see any hate at all. None. I think I'm creating unity, because the Fine Line Swarm can now hate me together. You can team up with your iPads. But here's why the delusion. Because only Fine Line bros were told by their mothers that tattooing is a real job. Degenerates today have just addressed the cluster, the themes of the comments, because there was just too many to reply to each individual one. But in the next one, I'm gonna address the most toxic individual ones. It's gonna be a real cringe fest, because the snowflakes keep coping and having melties in my comment section. If you have a minute, go on my Instagram and read these comments. People are having battles. It's really a sight to behold. Anyway, degenerates, stay toxic, keep pressing charges, and I'll see you in the next one.